Welcome to the Research Works podcast, brought to you in association with Curtin University and the Healthy Strides Foundation. Your hosts are Dr. Dana Poole and Dr. Ashley Thornton, and together we will interview world-leading researchers in the area of child health to support your practice in being more evidence-based.
The team at the Research Works podcast acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land and waters on which we live and work. We pay our respects to all First Nations peoples, elders past and present, and would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we record this podcast each week, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. We recognise their continued connection to this beautiful budja we call home.
Well, welcome everyone to another episode of the Research Works podcast.
Yes, welcome everyone. Today we have a special holiday episode for you all. And of course, because we have a special holiday episode, we have a special guest to join us today.
Indeed, indeed. You're probably very surprised that we're back on the air when we said we're going on holiday, but this one was just too good to hold back. So we have to do this one. And I think the reason why we do this is because we know that perspective is always so important when we talk about the latest evidence. It's actually really, really important to hear about the kids, the people that we work with, and the evidence and the impact this has on their life. So that's the big reason behind all of this, hey?
Yeah, and so for that reason, we are so happy to have Emily Pryor joining us on the show today. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, welcome.
Thank you for taking time out of your summer holidays to come and chat with us.
Yeah.
And for our listeners who are overseas, we're obviously in Australia, and at the moment we're in our long summer holiday season. So, Emily, thank you for taking some of your holidays to speak to us. And why don't you tell us about some of the exciting things you've been doing so far?
I'm going on holidays soon. I'm going down to Esperance. I'm taking my dog with me. So that'll be really fun because the beaches are really nice down there. Like the water is like so beautiful.
Yeah, it really is.
I'm really excited.
That sounds incredible.
So you've been on holiday and you're about to go on holiday. I think that's like the best combination you could ever ask for.
For sure.
Yeah.
Especially down to Esperance. Like that's postcard material, isn't it? All of those beautiful beaches.
Very, postcard is a good way to say it. Isn't it like it's very Instagrammable?
Yeah. It's like
showing my age here.
Taking pictures of the sunset and like the beach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds so good.
For sure. But before we get into our chat with you today, Emily, we thought we would tell our listeners a little bit about you to help them get to know you. So Emily Pryor is a 15-year-old high school student living with cerebral palsy. Emily has engaged with services in the community since she was 1 year old. She's been involved in numerous research projects and is now very much in control of her own journey and the services she receives. As an ambassador for Wheelchair Rugby Australia, Modibody, an actor, model and influencer, Emily is working hard to change the way disability is included and represented in the media, which is just amazing.
So incredible. 15.
I know.
What?
I know. I feel tired just thinking about all of that. But that's the formal getting to know you, Emily. But we also like to do an informal getting to know you, and that's our little icebreaker question that we ask everyone at the start of our episode. And I think you are definitely our first teenage guest, so we thought we'd get some first-hand experience from you and ask you our icebreaker question, what's the best thing about being a teenager?
I think for me, it's probably like as you get older, being more independent and like doing things without your mum, like, you know, sorry, Mum, but like getting to go to the shops and like, you know, get something to eat and just hang out with your friends and like figure out like who you are as a person and like what you want to do in the future, I guess.
Oh, wow. That's pretty impressive.
I know, right?
Yeah, that's actually really deep as well. Like you're thinking about the future, you're exploring things, you're independent.
Yeah.
I love it.
Hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah.
So, Dana, I'm obviously going to ask you this question in past tense. Sorry about that. What was the best thing about being a teenager, Dana?
Oh, that just sounds so sad all of a sudden, doesn't it? I think the best thing about being a teenager, I guess with hindsight, now that I am an adult, much more into an adult now, is that life was really carefree. I think you're more independent, but you can kind of you don't have to worry about what people say or think too much. I think that's my encouragement for teenagers is like, if you think don't worry about things too much because life just gets busier and fuller as time goes on.
Yeah.
And the other thing I really loved when I was a teenager, this will show my age, was I loved going to the video store. Does anyone remember a video store?
Me, I do.
Yes, thank you very much. That was like what I do during the school holidays. So we'd get 2 new releases and 4 weeklies for $9.95 if you had a coupon at the back of a TV guide.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you would go and select it and you'd have to physically go there and then come back and listen to it.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. So, those are great things about being a teenager.
Yeah.
What
You've
about
done
you,
a nice job of humouring her there. And like,
thanks,
sounds pretty
Emily.
cool. I don't know.
I like the streaming services. I've got thousands at my fingertips.
Yeah. Oh, what was the best thing about being a teenager? I think Emily has hit the nail on the head. It's like your first taste of independence and freedom.
Yeah.
I suppose without any of the burdens of being an adult, right?
Yes,
So not too many responsibilities yet, some responsibilities, but just that taste of freedom and getting to explore who you are and spending time with your friends and
it's so fun.
Starting to do the things that you really want to do.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Gosh, you've made us start thinking about our past.
But also Blockbuster Video and hiring a Mighty Ducks trilogy. Yeah.
Mighty Ducks trilogy. I know you're just laughing, but have you heard of that before?
I don't think so.
No. It's okay. I'm sure we'll be able to find it
I
on.
have heard of Blockbuster though.
Okay. That's good.
Feel. All right, well, shall we get into today's episode, hey?
I think so.
Yep. All right, so let me just give a little bit of a summary of what we want to talk about today. So lately we've been talking a whole lot with like other researchers like Christine Imms and the family of participation-related constructs, physical activity through sport and the work of Georgina Clutterbuck, Hércules Ribeiro Leite, moving through the different life stages and the reasons for why we do what we do. So really highlighting the work of Mark Peterson and, of course, the overarching framework that is the F-words. And we want to really cover that within the context of someone from the perspective of Emily. And so we have a whole series of questions that really take together all the things we spoke about in last season and put it together in terms of like the reality. What does this actually mean? What does it look like?
Yeah.
Cool.
And Emily, we thought a nice way of doing that, as Dana said, was through, I suppose, each of the F words and talking about what they are and what they really mean to you.
Okay.
And, in your everyday life, what those different things actually mean for you and what things you think are important and what things maybe aren't so important to you. So that's how we thought we'd kind of travel through this episode with you today.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's obviously lots that we want to talk to you about, but we thought a good first place to start for the listeners is to get to know a little bit more about you, and we'll start with the F word of function. So you have cerebral palsy. What does that mean for you in regards to, I suppose, how you move and how your body works?
Well, obviously, like my legs are like more affected than the rest of my body. So sometimes I need a little bit of help, like walking places, or I use my wheelchair for long distances. But it basically means sometimes I just have to do things in my own way, kind of, adapt it to make it easier for me. So,
yeah. And when you are, moving your body, what kinds of things are important to you? So what are you thinking about? Is it about being able to, for example, join in activities that your friends are doing, or, what's important and maybe what's not so important when you're moving around?
I think like keeping up with my friends is probably a big one, especially at school now that I'm older. And I just think, and like being able to balance and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how you described there, Emily, that, it's in terms of how you move, and sometimes for longer distances you use wheelchair. Can you talk us through a little bit about sort of what different ways that you do move and how you choose to move on each day?
So, like at school, I'll use my chair like to, race around and be like, race you to my locker. I'm just like,
that's cool.
And then other days, I'll walk and Like I used to have crutches at one point. I would like use that, and like for uneven surfaces, I have a cane, which I'll use if I like go to the beach or if I'm like going on a bit of a hike.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I like how you've talked about that because I think sometimes, when you think about how you move, I think we often just think about one way of moving, and it's like wheelchair or nothing else, walking or nothing else. But you've really just talked about there, like if sometimes you'll choose to use a cane, sometimes you'll choose to use your wheelchair because you want to keep up with your friends more. I like that you think that through. So in the beginning of the day, like, do you sort of think about what you're going to do that day and what you're going to bring with you?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, especially when like I'm like, right, do I want to bring my chair? I'm going to the shops today. Yeah, I'm bringing my chair. I'm not going to walk because I'm probably going to be there for a while and I know my legs get tired. Or even if I do decide to walk, I make sure that like whoever I'm going with, I make sure like, okay, when I need to sit down, like I'm going to sit down to like have a rest.
Yeah. It's good that you're thinking through all those parts of it. Do you, when you're changing from sort of one way of moving to another, do you need help with any of that?
I mean, like sometimes it depends, but people remind me to put my brakes on my chair. Sometimes I don't. Or sometimes they're like really hard to. So I'm just like, Mom, can you hold the back of my chair? But yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, you think through a whole lot. So what I'm sort of hearing is the beginning of the day, I guess the main difference here is you do wake up and you think about, okay, what am I doing today?
Yeah.
You have to plan ahead.
It also depends on like how tired my muscles are or like what I've been doing the previous day. Like if I went to the gym and like my legs are a bit sore, then I'll be like, no, I'm not going to walk today.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So
And
it's like every day you make that decision. Yeah, based on how you feel.
Yeah.
So you just talked about gym there, which I love that you just threw that in there. You're 15, you're going to the gym, your legs feel sore. There's a term for that, right? When your legs feel sore?
DOMS.
Oh, I love that you know what that is.
Delayed onset muscle soreness.
Sounds like Emily is very, very familiar with DOMS.
When I tell people that, they're like, how do you know that? Like, I don't know. Just do.
Well, I love that you work so hard that you do actually get DOMS.
Yeah.
Because I think it's more concerning if you go and you're like, I never feel anything at all. So from a physio's perspective, I'm like really impressed. So you talked a bit about the gym, and I guess that kind of goes to my next question where I kind of want to talk a little bit about fun and within the context of therapy. So when we think about fun and therapy, they don't often go hand in hand because you think of work, and almost the gym's a bit like that as well. So I guess from the perspective of fun, how is it that you choose what you do for therapy?
Well, I think I always have to, do something that I enjoy, because otherwise I'm not going to do it. So I at the end of the day, it's my disability, it's my life. So I got to choose something that I know is going to benefit me in the future and keep me mobile and for my mobility and everything, but also something that I enjoy.
Yeah. I mean, I love that you've thought about that. And I mean, right now you're obviously going to the gym, which to me sounds really age appropriate.
Yeah. It's also about, keeping it age appropriate because I want to do what, my friends are doing. They'll be like, oh, I'm going to the gym. And I'll be like, oh, same, I go to the gym.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Well, what about therapy then? Because I know that, we've known each other for a long time and therapy is something that you've had to do for a long time as well. Can you cast your mind back, just like you guys made me cast my mind back to when I was a teenager? It's a long time ago. But cast your mind back to when you were younger and therapy and what you thought about that with regards to fun.
I think because I was when I was really little, a baby, Mum's been telling me all these stories that I screamed the house down and didn't like it. But I think I just realised that was my life. So I didn't see it any other way basically.
Right. That's really interesting. And can you think about what kinds of things make therapy fun for you?
Well, no, maybe. Well, we had Mr. Frog.
A very special toy.
That was a pretty big highlight. I think it's because my physio is always encouraging me, like, come on, Em, you can do it. Like, so, yeah, they were always encouraging me to do that. And then,
yeah, that's
it
really
just
cool.
made it more, like, they want me to do this. And then after I do that, like, they give me a high five and a little celebration. So,
Yep. So I guess that's part of the fun.
Yeah, having that kind of positive, encouraging environment and people around you to help you kind of feel good about what you're doing.
So if we know what it looks like to be fun, I'm going to throw one out there. What does it look like when it's not fun?
I think it's when, like, you gotta like be a part of it. So I think it's when, like, people just make the decisions for you and be like, you're going to do this, and you'd be like, no. But then, like, you're too scared to, like, say, oh, I don't want to do that because, like, yeah. So I think the most important thing is, like, for the therapist to, like, talk to the person with a disability. Because it's their journey and they have to be involved.
Yeah, yep. I mean, there's that amazing word involved again, isn't there,
Yeah.
Ash?
Yeah. I think that's pretty powerful stuff, Emily.
Yeah, yep.
And what kinds of things do you think therapists should be talking to the person they're working with about?
Like asking what they want to do and, like, do you have, like, say for example, do you have any favorite exercises? Or, like, asking them, like, do you know, like, how is this going to, like, help you in the future? What are your goals? Like, what do you want to achieve?
Can I talk about that with goals? I'm so glad you brought that up, Ben. How important is it to have goals?
I think it's really important. So that way when you have something to look forward to and then when you've done it, you achieve something and you're like, yes, and move on to the next one.
No, I think that's really cool. So when you can come up with the goals, then you know it's really meaningful for you.
And you got to make sure that they're not, like, really, like, drastic, like, oh, I'm never going to reach that. You got to make it, like, reasonable that you will be able to reach that.
Yeah.
That it's something that you're, like, working towards but is achievable.
Yeah, that it's not unrealistic.
Yeah. Oh gosh, none of us want a goal that's unrealistic because it's like it's not motivating, right?
Yeah.
You just go, okay, I'm not going to do it. Done.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad he spoke about that. What happens if a therapist says to you, look, I think this is a really important goal for you. Like I think this is going to be really good for you. And it wasn't something that you thought about at the time. So it might be someone going, oh, look, in the future, these are things you need to think about. So this is a goal for you. How do you take to that?
I mean, I think about it as they're therapists. They know what they're doing. So, like, if it's, like, based on, because obviously we like it to be, like, evidence-based. So, yeah, if it's, like, I think I'll just be like, I'll do it, I reckon.
Yep. I guess that comes down to trust. Like what you're sort of saying there, it's evidence-based. So you are assuming the therapist that's working with you is evidence-based, and if they say it's important, you trust them. But I guess it's a bit different if it's someone you didn't trust.
Yeah,
I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah. And someone that maybe didn't know you
as well.
very well. Yeah.
That
makes sense.
Yeah.
So, one of the other F words that we talk about a lot is family. And I'm sure, you've had, in the context of therapy, which we've been talking about a bit, I'm sure you've had lots of appointments over, the last 14 or so years. What role has your family played in those appointments?
I guess just, like, well, when I was younger, like, communicating with the physio or the doctor, because obviously when I was younger I couldn't really advocate for myself.
Fair point.
And just, like, supporting me and encouraging me to, like, do my best and try and reach my goals, I guess.
Yeah.
And obviously being my Uber driver.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
All the appointments.
Yeah. Uber mums are pretty special. Yeah. And was there ever a point where you felt like you had maybe too many appointments or too many things that you were doing?
Yes, I reckon there was probably some parts where I'm, like, out of school a lot and, like, going to all these appointments. But
yeah. How did that make you feel?
I think, well, I was kind of used to it. Like, but I was missing out maybe on a bit of school and like not seeing my friends. So yeah, it was a little bit sad at some points.
Yeah.
I like how you talked about that as well, because it is always a trade-off, isn't it? So the appointments you would have gone to, no doubt, would have been important.
Yeah.
Your family thought, it was important for you to go to them. But then the trade-off for that is school.
And like catching up on work and stuff.
Yeah. Tell me a bit about that. We often don't talk about that because I know that I start to feel a little bit anxious if I'm missing out on too much school, I've got to do all this homework outside of it. Talk me through what that was like for you with all those appointments.
Well, I think in primary school it was okay, but now as like I'm getting into my later high school years, I like think about it a bit more and I'm like, Mum, I like don't want to go to this because I'll miss school. Like I have an assignment that I have to do.
Yeah.
So that's like sometimes can be a bit annoying, but I think I just try and stay on top of it, and I've got pretty good EAs at my school, so they know what they're doing.
Yeah. And in high school in Australia, I remember we used to have like a timetable of kind of knowing when things were going to happen and what subjects you had on at what times and things. Do you ever think about, say there's an appointment that you have to go to, do you and your family try and fit that in around your timetable at school?
Yeah, I try and if like I've got an appointment or I'm going to be away for a while or something, I try and either hand my assignments in earlier or just talk to the teacher and say like, hey, can I get an extension on this? But I also have a tutor as well, so that really helps a lot.
Yeah. Sounds like you have to be quite organised, as well as being organised and thinking about the things that you are doing during the day and working out what equipment you need and things like. Sounds like this is another kind of time where you have to try and be as organised as you can be. Would that be right? Yeah.
Super organised. That must get so much planning.
I'm pretty organised.
Yeah.
I love how, you've gone to that a bit more detailed, which I think we often don't hear about and talk about those times where you're having to swap, like appointments and school. Is there anything that makes you go, okay, this appointment is important for me to go to and I'll miss out on school, versus the ones where you go, actually, this appointment isn't important enough for me to miss out on school? Is there anything in particular that makes you help you make that decision?
I think there's sometimes I'm thinking, do I really need to go to this appointment? Like, would I rather do the assessment and like just miss out? Yeah, there's definitely times where I think about that. Yeah.
I think that's really important for us, to have those conversations of, what's the trade-off? And is it worth the trade-off for you? And your answer needs to be taken, really seriously, because at the end of the day, you're the one doing the extra work, aren't you?
Well, that's why I think now that I'm older, my mum is trying to get more appointments like after school so I don't miss as much school. But sometimes, obviously, that can't happen. But
Yeah. And do you ever have, conversations with therapists or people that you might be having those appointments with about, whether there's things that rather than going to the appointment and seeing them face to face, if there's things that you could do maybe before or after school or fit things into your day to make life a little bit easier?
Or like do like a FaceTime or something,
Yeah. And do you find that works for you?
Yeah, I think it does. I've had a few like Zoom calls and I think it was good because I was able to like talk to them, but I didn't miss out on anything.
I think we've on the podcast before, and we've spoken to people about like coaching, and therapists sometimes don't always have to be right there to do something with you. Obviously, there's some things you need them to do. It's like, I want to do a biomechanical assessment. Can you just move that leg so I can measure it? It's a bit tricky, right?
Yeah.
But you can pick the ones where you might need like touch points, and you can coach because you're in control of your life. So you might just need a little bit of input to kind of go, well, maybe you thought about this or this, and that might be all you need for a while. Yeah. All right. Well, that's a really cool look at, the whole family. And obviously you need a whole family to get around you so you can be super organised is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the next very important thing, which is friends. How do friends fit into everything that you do?
Well, I mean, they're my friends. You got to have a balance between therapy and life. So I see them.
That's good.
I'd go to the gym 3 times a week, and then when I'm not at the gym, I go hang out with my friends and they just see me as Emily and yeah.
Yeah. And I think that is, you sound happy when you talk about that.
Yeah.
So that's part of a healthy lifestyle, right? Yeah. So when we talk about sort of friends and therapy and fitness, so it doesn't sound like these guys go to the gym with you. You go to the gym. Yeah. You're probably leading the pack there in terms of going to the gym.
Yes.
Do you ever sort of talk about any of the things that you do at the gym or in therapy with your friends?
Yeah, they always support, like when I tell them, oh, I did this today, and they always support my achievements and my goals, and they're always really happy for me. So yeah, I do talk about it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And do they ask you questions about the kinds of things that you're doing?
Yeah, some of them do. They're like, what do you do at the gym? And I'm like, oh, I lift some weights. They're like, oh, cool, I don't even do that. How heavy do you lift the weight? I'm like, what's the weight you lift? And I'm like, oh, like 30 kilos. And they're like, oh, that's heavier than I could do. So, yeah.
I think that's pretty impressive, actually.
I do think that's very impressive.
Absolutely.
Gosh. You've obviously been at it for a little while now.
Yeah.
And when you're with your friends, do you feel like they, if you're in a situation where you needed help or support, that they would be able to do that for you?
They understand, like, especially when sometimes we like go for a walk, or if it's like on uneven surfaces, I'm like, hey, can you hold my hand so I don't fall over?
Yeah.
Or like, hey, this is a pretty steep hill, can you push my chair for me? So yeah, they're really understanding and they're always there for me. It's really good.
Oh, that's a sign of a good friend, I think.
That's so good.
Yeah.
And it just sounds like, you have spent time with them and they understand you. So it's not like you've gone, like you obviously spoken to them about cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
They understand that part of it.
Yes.
I think sometimes the other approach could be you don't really talk about it at all. It feels too awkward to talk about.
Yeah.
But for you obviously gone down the path of saying, look, I have cerebral palsy. Tell me a little bit about what it's like to tell your friends about cerebral palsy. What sort of things were really important for them to know?
Probably like, if I fall over, don't freak out, like I'll be fine. Unless I'm like screaming in pain, then yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because like some people at school, they just see me fall over and they're like, oh my God, are you okay? I'm fine. I fall over all the time. Yeah.
So you just tell them a bit about sort of some of the challenges you might have and so they can expect it.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're not like in such a shock.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I feel like, Cash, we haven't really ever spoken about that before.
No, and it sounds, Emily, like, on top of the huge list of impressive skills that you have, being a really good communicator is one of them. Like you're pretty good at sharing what you want to share with people around you. Would you say that's...
Yeah, well, I think it's something that like I'm passionate about and I enjoy like just talking. I'm a chatterbox in other words. So yeah.
I've gathered that. I guess as part of this, and I was thinking of sort of asking this a little bit later, but I think it makes sense now. We often, I feel like society, often we don't know what to say.
Yeah.
And so the word disability, sometimes people go, oh, you can't say that. And that's often the reason why people don't talk about their disability or tell people they've got cerebral palsy. Can you tell me what you think of the word disability and how that relates to you? And just maybe let's start there.
I mean, it's a good word. People should use it. It's like I use it to describe me. It's a part of who I am. So yeah. And the disabled community want you to use it.
Yeah, that's really cool. What do you think people are hesitant about in using that word?
Maybe because they think it might like offend somebody or yeah. But it doesn't.
Yep. Are there any other words are there words that offend you?
I hate the word special needs. Don't use it.
Yep.
It's very condescending.
Yep.
It makes me feel like, a baby and just like someone completely different, like another species or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't use it. And it's mainly the parents.
Sure. Yep.
That I hear say it. It's not the kids, it's the parents.
Yep.
So
sounds like maybe it was like an older word that used to be used a long time ago, and
like a bit of a generational thing. Yeah.
Do you find like there's special needs, special people, special person.
I mean, we're just people.
Yeah.
And we have needs, but they're not special.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I think that's an important point. It's probably why you've got such a supportive family and friends, is that you do talk about all the challenges that you have, all the beautiful things that happen as well, but also the challenges. And that's a great conversation starter that helps people feel at ease and go, you're no different. You're my friend.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I like that.
Like they just see me as Emily and she happens to have a disability. Okay, cool. She uses a wheelchair. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's
get on with it.
Yeah.
Next topic. Come on.
Yeah.
And if someone had a question about your disability, Emily, would you feel comfortable answering? Say it was, a new friend that you'd made and they had some questions. Is that something that you feel comfortable talking to them about?
Oh, yeah, because there's kids all the time, especially the little kids, they come up to me, they're just curious. So I just say, I'm in a wheelchair, and or my legs work a bit differently to yours, and they're like, okay, cool, let's go play or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're just curious.
Yeah. Yeah.
And once you tell them, they're like, okay, bye.
Yeah, and it kind of takes some of the mystery away and the stigma away from from having the conversation and asking the question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like not only have you got great organisation skills, you've got great communication skills. There's two things there already. Like they're sort of like, this is a very research term, it's like an active ingredient, which is like so important though. They seem to have got you to where you are today.
Yeah.
That I think we can learn a lot from.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, let's talk a bit more about fitness, because I feel like the gym's popped up a few times now. I know it's something that you love to do, and working on fitness is something that's important to you, and we know from the research evidence and the data that's come out over quite a long time now that being physically active is really important for everyone. But what does fitness mean for you?
I think, I know how important it is to keep active, especially with kids with disabilities, because they don't get the same opportunities, So it's really important for us to, stay fit and healthy so that we have better mobility and just can live longer in the future.
Gosh, you've linked 2 F words there. Clever girl. Well done. Because they are linked. It's hard to talk about fitness in the present tense and just leave it at that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're always thinking forward.
Yeah. So going to use our gym example again, when you're going to the gym, what kinds of, in regards to your fitness, what does going to the gym mean that you're then able to do, in the rest of your life?
I think just better mobility, improving my walking, my strength, and being able to just do stuff and be more independent. And my balance as well, that's a big one. So I have less falls and stuff.
So you notice that straight away, don't you? So do you feel like when you're fit and you're strong that those things are better?
It's easier to do things,
Yeah. I imagine that's quite motivating.
Yeah.
When it's quite immediate. Because I think if it was too long term, it would be like that unattainable goal. Just you don't see the effect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you feel it right now.
Yeah. Once I started going to the gym, I'm like, whoa, this is good. I want to keep doing it. I think I've been doing it for about a year or so now. So
yeah. I think that's a really good point as well, because you were able to see such a benefit, it's something that you were able, that becomes really motivating for you, doesn't it? So you're more likely to continue with it because you can see, you feel motivated to keep seeing those benefits.
And I think because it's my choice as well. If anyone was to say, okay, I want you to go climb this massive thing of stairs, I'd be like, no, I'm not doing that. But because I decided to go to the gym, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I'll do that. So.
Yeah. That's such a good point that it's, that fitness is personal and relevant to you. So, your goal is not to climb a huge flight of stairs, and neither is mine. But your goal is to, do things that make you happy, right?
Yeah.
So finding exercise that feels good for you means that you're able to do it
multiple times
term.
and multiple times a week as well.
Yeah. And you've been doing it for over a year now, which means that, you're kind of well into the future of when you started off with that that pursuit and that goal.
So good. It's so impressive. Hey, Emma, I wonder whether when you say you go 3 times a week, does it also feel like when you go to the gym, because you go in somewhere, you can kind of go, get it done, you don't have to think about it again? Is that part of it?
Yeah, I think so. I reckon it will be like I just go there, do it, and then it's done, and then, have a rest day, then go back. But I just think because I'm used to it now, I just go consecutively.
That's really cool.
Tell
me about the rest day. That was good. Like, look at her language. She knows all about it. Tell me about your rest day. Why is it important?
Well, because you gotta have a break. You can't do like physio and do like it all the time, because then you'll just be like miserable and your muscles will hurt, and so you gotta have a break. But usually on my rest days, depending on like if my muscles are sore, I don't know, I like do some stretches, have a bath with like Epsom salts.
Nice.
Go for a swim.
Nice.
Yeah.
Really, really
You're
good.
a proper athlete.
Gosh, isn't she?
Yeah.
My goodness.
And Emily, is going to the gym something that you do by yourself, or do you have a group of people that you do that with?
I have a personal trainer. So, my support worker takes me.
Yeah.
And then I just go do like a 45-minute session.
Yeah.
And then,
And that's it. That's done. Rest day.
Yeah.
Stronger. DOMS.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you, I think this probably ties into fitness a little bit, but do you ever have times where you feel like, or your body maybe tells you that you're doing too much?
Yeah, I think so. Like when I'm really tired, or I like walk around, I'm like, oh, I'm a bit sore today. Or if I'm like falling over a lot more than I usually do, then I think that's the way of my body saying, oh, you need to just chill because you're falling over a bit too much.
Yeah.
And your body's sore and tired.
Yeah. And do you think you're pretty good at listening to your body when it tells you that? Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
falling's
really
no
good.
fun.
No.
Especially when it's like 5 or 6 times a day.
Yeah.
That's when I'm like, okay, I need to rest now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty
sign.
pretty strong message.
It is,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the last one to wrap up all the F words is future. And we've been dabbling in our future through all of the F words. Because you can't, like I said, you can't really talk about all these things without thinking about the future. There's like always a reason why you're doing something. So what is it that you see for yourself in the future?
Well, I obviously want to be like as active and fit as possibly as I can. So I do see myself, going to the gym or doing some form of physical activity, because I know that's like good for me, and I know that it's going to help my mental not just my mental health but my physical health. And it's going to, help me walk for longer, maybe even longer distances. And
Good. Thought about it all.
Yeah. Sure have. And Emily, I think that's probably the F words that we've covered off.
Beautiful.
And I think a lot of research work at the moment talks about the F words and how we can make sure that the F words are addressed in everything that we do from a research perspective and from a clinical perspective as well. But I just wanted to ask you a little bit about the research side of things. So we know that you've been a part of research projects over the last few years, which is just incredible, because without people like you giving up your time to be involved in research, we wouldn't have evidence for what works and what doesn't and why. Yep. So thank you for that. I think on behalf of everyone, it's so important.
Thank you. Yep.
What does research mean for you as a person? Like, is it important for you when you're deciding what you're going to do or what you're not going to do?
I think because you got to think about it. Be like, okay, this is what I want to do, but like, is it good for me? You think about that. You think, oh, I want to do this, but is it good in terms of me, my future, and like my disability?
Yep.
Like, is it good for my muscles?
Yep.
So, yeah.
And I guess the only way you can actually say whether it's good or not, you can sort of make a guess and we can go, yeah, it could be quite good, but it's probably quite helpful to know.
Yeah, to know.
Yep.
And what kinds of things help you make those decisions?
Well, I guess I always have like my mum there as well, but as I've gotten older, like I make the decisions and I like talk to my physio, so like communication. Like I say, oh, I want to do this, and then they talk about it and they'll be like, oh, okay, let's do that then. Like, so communicating with the physio or the doctor or the OT or whatever is really important, I think.
Yeah. And do you find it helpful when they explain the reasons why they're doing things? So if they talk to you about maybe the evidence for what they're doing and why they're doing it, is that something that's important to you?
I think that's really important. So then you know that you're doing something and you're not just doing it, you're doing it for like a reason.
Yeah, I like it.
And do you ask them why sometimes? Like if they say, going back to the example about, I think this goal might be really important for you.
Yeah.
Would you always ask them why that is?
I always ask questions and figure out what's best for me.
Yeah.
It's good.
It is.
So from someone who's been the recipient of a lot of research or been part of a lot of research, you've been in contact with people like us for a long time now. But, I think knowing what you think is really important. So is there anything that we as researchers or therapists can do better?
Just, I guess, communicate with the person who has a disability and, like, ask them what they want to do. And, like, how they want to see themselves in the future. What are their goals? Like, because if you ask them, then they can, it's their life, so they should be able to choose what they do.
Yeah. So you're talking a lot about involvement there again, aren't you? And I think the reason why we're emphasising that so much is we spoke to a lovely professor, Christine Imms, in last year's season, and she said participation, like, doing stuff in the community, you can either attend and like be there, or you can be involved, like you're with people, you're doing it. And so you've mentioned now so many times of what involvement looks like. Have you been in a situation where you can describe involvement where you weren't really involved?
I think a lot when I was younger, because I think I didn't I wasn't able to like communicate and like decide what I wanted to do. Like a lot when I was younger, I was kind of just sitting on the sidelines, like watching my brother or my sister like play sport. But then as I got older, it was like, I don't want to sit on the sidelines anymore. I want to do it. So that's when I started to get involved, and now I'm like doing all these like inclusive soccer days and inclusive sports carnivals at my school. So
wow, that's so cool.
And like athletics as well.
Yeah.
So.
And what you've just given us there, Em, is the perfect example of, a comparison of attendance compared to involvement. Because, you attended, if you looked at, the number of sessions you attended of your brother or your sister's sport training or games, you probably attended 100% of those, but you weren't able to be involved in any of them. But now it sounds like you're involved in as many activities as you want to be.
And I love it because we just support each other.
Yeah.
And it's really nice.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Can I ask on that one, we want people to be involved right from the beginning. And I think what's happened over the last 15 years is researchers, therapists, we've come better at knowing like how can we get people involved. So I think you've actually been part of that. Like as you've gotten older, we've gotten better. And let's talk about involvement.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important to make sure it doesn't take that long for us to be thinking about getting people involved. This is a really tough question, but I want to talk about it because you might have some insights into it. Like how can we get kids involved much earlier? Like what you're doing now, earlier.
I feel like you could like ask the kid, like, do you want to do this? Like, what sport do you want to play? Like, ask them like what they want to do for an activity, and then be like, okay, well, we can work something out. We can adapt it for you if you need to.
Yeah, and
they can play sport. Like I know with my sport teachers, like I did a bunch of sports, and they're like, how can we make this so it's like accessible for you and like easier, so you don't have to like walk as far or get something to run for you when you play when they're doing cricket. So yeah.
I think that's such a good point.
Isn't
that
it?
you can always ask the question, and kids, no matter how young they are, because I think that is perhaps a perceived barrier to people asking kids about what they want to do, is the idea that maybe they don't know. But I think, and probably, you would know that when you were younger, you had a pretty good idea of what you liked and didn't like to do.
Just giving them the options as well.
Yeah.
We have soccer over here, or we have this sport, we have this sport, or they can just have one of those sports days where they just try each sport out and see what they like.
Yeah. Such great advice.
I love it.
Thank you.
I love it. And I guess that's involvement. It's individual. So whatever that person's saying that makes them feel like they are involved.
Yeah.
They're involved.
Yeah.
If we can make it happen.
Include them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really important.
Like it.
So just to finish off our conversation about research and, talking about building evidence for the things that we do, is there anything you can think of that you think we should be researching more into? Are there things that you find interesting, or that you think there's not enough research in that we should be looking into more?
Oh, that's a hard question.
It is, isn't it?
I think maybe what are the when you do physical activity, what are the benefits of someone with cerebral palsy or CP or with a disability? What are the benefits for them for keeping active?
Yeah. You mean in the long term?
Yeah.
What does it actually mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah. I think that's so important because
we don't really have that longitudinal data.
No,
do we?
it's not something that people thought about, long enough ago, that we now have that kind of evidence of, older people with cerebral palsy and their fitness and, how we might be able to influence that. So I think that's such a good point. And I know someone in America who would be very interested to hear that that's a priority.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
I think you just help someone to create their PhD right there. Somebody.
100%. We talked to a colleague in America, Mark Peterson, on the podcast, and that's something that I think he's really passionate about, and he would like to build that evidence for in the future. So
cool.
I think that aligns really nicely with what you're saying.
Really important. Gosh, Em, I loved our conversation today. I feel like we could keep talking.
Yeah, I know. I feel like we go on for hours.
This is just so natural for you.
Yeah.
Like you said, you are a chatterbox, but you're not chatterboxing rubbish. It's all chatterboxing absolute gold. Absolute gold. Yeah. I think there's so much that we can all learn from you, hey?
100%. I think you are a really powerful advocate for, people with disability and lived experience, and we feel very privileged that you've been able to come and talk to us today and to give us such wonderful advice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to all of our listeners, remember you can always get access to all of our run sheets, and for this one we'll have some notes about what we spoke about today on researchworks.net, and of course there's a CPD form there that you can fill out as well if you want to keep this a part of a record of your PD requirements. Yeah. But for now, I'm sort of hesitating, so I don't really want to finish it. But yeah. But for now, thank you so much, Emily.
Thank you.
We loved having you.
Yeah, I love being here.
Oh, thanks, Emily. It was lots of fun to talk to you today.
We'll have you on again, okay? Okay, we'll bring you back again. All right, to all of our listeners, enjoy the rest of your holidays, and we'll talk to you again at the beginning of the next season. Bye.
Bye.